Hello and welcome to Tuesdays with Morrissey, where we share insights from great thinkers. I'm Adam Morrissey. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Mickey Ashmore. Mickey is the founder of the footwear and lifestyle brand Sabah, with a large digital presence in stores in New York, London, Austin, and more. Mickey has been featured by the New York Times, Conde Nast Traveler, Esquire, and many other publications. Mickey, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind introduction as well.
I'm excited to have a conversation about craftsmanship, culture, and community. Three things I think make the Sabah brand great. But before we do that, I want to go back to the beginning. In 2012, you started Sabah in your New York apartment. I'm curious, how'd you come up with the concept and decide it was worth building a company around a unique looking leather slipper?
So prior to living in New York, I lived in Istanbul for several years. I was there working for Microsoft in a strategy and finance role. It was my first job out of college. And while living there, towards the end of my trip, I was gifted a pair of traditional Turkish slippers from a friend. This pair had been made by a family that had been making shoes for generations. And it was a shoe that was, this shoe's been existing in Turkey for, they say, 1,000 years, a long time, no longer worn in modern dress. It was given to me sort of as a memory to Turkey. So I then moved to New York. I was working in a new finance role in New York and was wearing these shoes all over the place. And while I was in that job on the side, I'd started importing. I'd always been entrepreneurial since I was a kid. I like to sell. I like to tell stories. I like to hustle. I like to build things and connect with people. And I think I had a dream always to be I traveled a lot through college. I was fortunate to travel, study abroad a few times, built a pretty interesting network of friends around the world. I love to tell stories and document, and I had a dream of building a global business, something that would, when I say global, I don't mean necessarily global in scale, but global, and that would allow me to have a big world and travel the places I loved. And I had developed a real affinity for Turkey. So on the side of my finance gig in Midtown, I had started importing and distributing various things from Turkey into the U.S., all through wholesale relationships. It was women's bikini to women's lingerie, leather goods, like all kinds of stuff. I saw those are funny categories, I know, but they just happened to fall in my lap. I saw Istanbul and Turkey as an interesting place, and I thought Istanbul had been undermarketed as a city, especially in terms of fashion and craft. And then on the side, I was I was doing that business, loving it. And on the side, I was wearing these shoes, and I sought out the man that made them, and it was having him make me new pairs, and was working with him on changing the style to fit more of what I wanted. The traditional shoe has a curly toe and a high back and an embroidered pattern across the top, and they're leather soled. So I basically simplified it down and added rubber to the sole, and then had a really nice piece of black leather sent to him. And then we would iterate on shoes, and my friends started asking me for pairs, and I had kind of already had this idea of cooking, of bringing things from Turkey. So I think while I enjoyed working with other brands, I was interested in creating my own expression, like really owning the whole thing from end to end and being able to express myself through my own business. And so one day I called him and said, "Hey, will you make me 300 pairs? I want you to stamp the word Sabah inside." Sabah means the morning time in Turkish. And I'm going to sell them. I'm going to start a business. And so the shoes arrived a few months later, because it took a while for him to make 300 pairs. And I think a week later, I threw a party at my apartment to launch the business. I hadn't thought much about it. I mean, I was always kind of I just do things. Like, I'm going to start selling these shoes. And so I started selling them out of my apartment, and then I had a job. So every Saturday and or Sunday, I would have what I call the Sabah Sunday party, where people could come by, try on shoes, have a drink, hang out. And my apartment had a door on the street. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was called a townhouse because it had a door on the street. So I'd pop the door open. It was summer, have friends, and kind of created this kind of hang where the shoes were also being sold and you could try them. And it developed a bit of a following. So at the end of that first summer, I sold all 300 pairs. I'd flown to Turkey, got another batch brought over. So I quit my job and I just went full time into selling Sabahs. And that was
Awesome.
almost 12 years ago now. And so for the first 5 years of the business, I continued to have my apartment as our biggest and main store. We sold almost $1 million out of that apartment in 1 year at one point. I mean, and it was just a residential apartment. And I was operating it as a showroom, and then we developed. But I think the point being, what was important to me was to create an ambiance and a hospitality with what we did, and to connect to our customers and get to know them, and I like I like to say I shook the hands of the first 10,000 customers personally, and I think that at that time, um, so much was going digital, and I was like, I want to take this real analog, like in person, come meet us, have a drink, share a story, and it really reminded me a lot of how things were done. When I would travel, my best purchases were always in a market. I'd stumble upon something and meet someone, and they'd sell me this, and we'd have a tea and connect. And so I wanted to, that's just what kind of switched me on. So I wanted to do the same with my business, and that's really still been like that's like core to our DNA to this day.
Have you ever read Danny Meyer's Setting the Table?
Absolutely, I've read it several times. I love that.
When you mentioned like hospitality and what you guys are doing, there's a couple concepts from his book that's come to mind. Is first one is Meyer talks about the most important thing in any transaction is how the other person feels.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talk about that a lot. I probably took it. I think I probably forgot that I would ascribe this comment I would make to him, but it absolutely goes back to that. But there's a lot of great. We certainly make a very distinct pair of shoes in the world. There is nothing else like a Sabah, but there are lots of great leather shoes, um, no doubt. But I think one thing that we do, and any business has the ability to do, is to create a unique, like a by definition unique experience for someone. Like these two energies come together in a moment in time that that is in itself singular, and that moment can be special and memorable and warm and uplifting and positive or not. And if you can do that consistently, you're going to win a lot of customers, and they're going to really remember and value that almost more than the shoes themselves and associate the two. And it's not like it's a marketing trick or a business tactic. It's just, I think when I think about, I, I love to frequent the same restaurants over and over. And it's because the way it makes me feel. The food may be good or great or who knows, but I've gotten to know the waiter or the maitre d' or the bartender. I know my seat, I know my order, they know me. There's like a feeling there that sort of transcends food, and it is because of that time and that repetition, it becomes special. And I think a lot about Sabah has been the same. My goal has always been to build the largest base of recurring loyal customers that we get to know year after year after year. And if we're doing that and we're doing our job well, it's like less about acquiring new customers and more about building great recurring loyal customers. And that is done through, of course, a great product and then really good service and hospitality. And again, that feeling that you can create with someone.
Yeah, the other concept that Danny Meyer talks about that you're alluding to is the concept of shared ownership. When customers talk about restaurants, product, services, in this case Sabas, as if it's their own, how have you guys been able to create
Right.
such community and shared ownership, especially as you transition from not shaking the hand of every customer?
I mean, a lot of it's just putting in the work. I think a lot of people want to have the thing, but don't want to necessarily put in the work. So we've traveled to maybe 75 cities with Sabah, many of them over and over and over again to reconnect with our community where we've hosted events, brought people together. Even as we've grown, like we still do that every year. And we put a lot of, like, it's a lot of, not only is it a cost of time and literal money, but it's a lot of energy to do that. But I mean, that actually gives me a lot of energy. Like I love to go and connect with customers, and our team that we have that does this, we get real switched on by seeing people year after year and then meeting new customers. And so one is just putting in the work. We've created stores. We currently have 5 stores operating, but we've had up to 10. We've opened and closed a few stores. But whenever we've had a shop, we've made a real effort to make them, to host events, to bring our community in, to make it a platform and a place for folks to connect, and just like consistently done that. And I think on the that's the in real life piece. And then on the digital side, we have a newsletter that I still write every newsletter personally. I think we've sent 2 to 3 a week, 1 to 2 to 3 a week for 11
Bravo,
years.
man.
And they're all written by me, and of course created by our, it's a collective energy that goes into it. I don't mean to take all the credit, but I love to write and I love to communicate in that way. So, it's personal. Like this brand it's a personal expression of me and a collection of individuals now. and it's authentic to us. It's not better or worse. It's just authentic, and authentic is maybe a bullshitty word these days, but it's authentic just means it's an independent expression to me, kind of like art. And you might like it or you might not, but at least it's something that's not crafted for the sake of appealing to you. And I think folks feel that, like, it's coming from me. And when folks reply, I reply back, and we just make a real effort. And then the last piece is on kind of the customer service side. We put a real effort into like connecting with everybody that writes to us and taking time to write back and making sure that we go above and beyond and rectify issues and like just take care of people. And I think the combination of those three things has allowed us to build a real community of people that care about what we do. And last year there was an earthquake in Turkey in February, and the town of our factory where we've been working for 12 years was the epicenter. And so I was there the day before, so I flew out. I got really lucky that I flew out the day before. But really, these are folks that are like our family that we worked with. And, every shoe that goes in the world from Sabah says the word Gaziantep on it. I think it's probably we may be the only product in the world that has the word Gaziantep written on it that's, global in our sense. And so our customers, of course, when they saw the news, a lot of them called, emailed, texted, showed up at our stores. How can we help? And of course, we were immediately already thinking about that. So we mobilized. Our company turned pretty much into an aid organization for 6 weeks. And we raised several $100,000. We had our team in the ground buying and distributing mattresses and tents. And we distributed, I don't remember how many tons, it was some wild amount of 40,000 pounds of food ourselves. And that was all a reflection of the community showing up and caring, kind of to your point, feeling ownership over this, ownership and care about the people that make these shoes and the brand, and wanting to connect all those dots. So that was really special. It was really moving when that happened. I mean, it was a sad thing, but I think even the folks in our workshop, who I know very well, where everyone was just so touched by the response. And I think felt a lot of pride that what we've created was able to, create that response.
Have they been able to rebuild the city?
Yeah. Yes. No. Gaziantep, thankfully, although it was the quote unquote epicenter, I mean, I think it was a few miles away. It was actually one of the least damaged places. The most of the damage happened in an area called Hatay, which is south of Gaziantep, and that's still devastated. And will never be the same. And I can't speak to the scale of that. There's people that could talk a lot more about it, but we're working right now on a project where we've launched recently Turkish towels, and we're creating a line of hand loomed things from Turkey, whether it's towels, robes, pants, etc. And we're working actually with affected craftspeople from the Hatay region who lost their factories and their workshops and their machinery, and we're working with a group that's been helping them buy that back, rebuild all those factories, and then we've been acting as sort of the engine for design and distribution of that through the Sabah brand, which has been really awesome to do. And kind of, again, let's leverage the brand and the community we have, make great product. It's not, it's not a social mission. It's a business first, but one with good values and that does things right. And I think I'm really excited about that project.
Yeah, I love the Sabah market, man, because I love markets myself. Yeah. Like, I love the smells, the sight, the taste, the diversity. I mean, talk a little bit about your kind of desire. That's because when you're explaining that, it kind of seems what you're doing. You're trying to bring that market experience to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think so. I think like our store in New York, we call it Sabah House, New York. We opened it 2 years ago. We've been in New York with a store of some sort for 11 years, but this is our sort of greatest expression yet of the brand. And the working sort of, I don't know, theoretical concept of the store is it's a modern caravanserai. And a caravanserai was a place along the old ancient Silk Road where traders, whether they were coming from the east headed west or the west headed east or south north, they would, a caravanserai was a place where they could find refuge and stay for the night with their things, and also trade, mix and mingle, connect. It was a place of commerce, culture, connection all over the world. So you might meet someone from a faraway place and have a great conversation and connect. You might trade things. You might, who knows what had happened in a caravanserai, but it was this incredible place. And so we think of Sabahs, New York as that. People come from all over the world to New York City, and they could come to that store and they can, of course, buy any of the goods we sell from all over the world. They can often meet any number of vendors who are popping up with us or with us for the weekend or the day or the year or the month and trade with them. Or they can come and have a drink, sit and relax, use our bathroom, sit outside in our outdoor area. It's just a place for people to come and spend time. And so, and it's a market, as you said. I think Sabah is primarily a footwear brand, but we're also, another way you can describe it is Sabah collaborates with craftspeople around the world to make high value products that are made by hand, made to last, and with an idea around expression. So that we have a marketplace in all of our stores and also online now that reflects that. And it's ever changing. And, a lot of the items are things we found along the way and we source from other makers that aren't Sabah branded. And now we've also been expanding into other Sabah branded goods, following the tenets of, craft and value and, knowing the maker, and then fitting into our lifestyle, which generally revolves around travel. But anything else that, home, living well.
Yeah, it almost seems to me like it's a lifestyle around experiencing and appreciating the richness of life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's true. And connecting with people. I think something that's important to me is, making good things, making things well and paying people well and using good materials is expensive. And so your product as a result, then to build a business well, the result is your product has to be more expensive maybe than the average thing in the market. But I also am trying not to be crazy with prices. There's nothing more disappointing to me than going to buy a great thing that's $950 and you're just
Yeah.
like, this is a towel, like, why is it so expensive? I get maybe it's made with cashmere sourced at the tip of a mountain. So, that's cool. But I think we try to find a middle ground of also, I think, creating value for people. And value to me is, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not expensive or it doesn't cost a lot, but it's that either, you get a lot of value out of it, like a lot of use, like Sabas are $210 a pair. In today's world, they're fairly inexpensive relative to footwear out there, but you get a lot of
Mhm.
dollars per step, both in how long they last and the versatility of the shoe. So I think for me, it's like, I want our product to be accessible with, reasonably accessible, and for it to be something that people can access, from a wide range of a wide range of people can access us.
Yeah, you mentioned like authenticity as kind of a buzzword. Some other things. Culture is kind of a buzzword word these days. Community is kind of a buzzword. All these groups are trying to like manufacture this stuff. Like when you think about like building the team and like the internal culture, like what are some things you guys have done to actually to get that buy-in from the team? And I'd be curious if there was any lessons learned along the way that maybe were first or second degree burns in that process.
I think the kind of, before I get into that, I think the number one thing is whenever someone reaches out and they're like, "Hey, let's do an event to create community," I'm like, that's not the right approach. We should do an event to do something and hope that the byproduct of it is community. Like, I think culture and community, creating culture and creating community should never be the goal. It should be the byproduct of the work. It's kind of how I feel about like sales, or, it's like it all should be the byproduct of the work itself. And so I think that's one thing is we've tried to do things that are authentically stuff we're excited about. Like every event we do, every pop up we do, every product we release, like we do it because we think it's awesome and we want to be there, and therefore we're genuinely excited about it. And then when our customers or our friends show up to either to buy it or to participate or whatever, that excitement sort of emanates out, and it's like then community gets created or culture gets created as a byproduct of that. So I think, in terms of lessons, I think for something to be successful in that regard, the folks that are in leadership or in charge need to genuinely be excited about it. We've done things that I'm not excited about in the past because it felt like it was important for business or something we needed to do for, some kind of a metric or something that, I don't know, growth. And you're like, well, if you're not excited about it, then that's pretty obvious and that's boring. And our team's not going to be excited if I'm not excited. If if Ari, who's kind of my co-captain in terms of the brand, or Billy, our director, if we're not all excited about it, then no one's going to be excited. So I think that's a big thing. It's like you got to be willing to be there and put the work in and put the time in, and I think creating company culture is very hard. I think a big thing for us is we're really back in person a lot. With COVID, we went real remote, like everybody did, and then, but stores can't go remote, and warehouses shipping product can't go remote. So that all has maintained, of course. But now we have an office in the city where we all come to at least 4 days a week. We love being together. We make it fun. We have lunch together as a team. Like in 2 weeks, we're all going to the Met together, taking the afternoon off. We're closing all the stores, all the warehouses, and doing like a day trip. And um, I don't think you have to have lots of team activities to create culture. I think that's a hack. But like having a fun workplace that's collaborative. And then I think last is I've always been a very transparent leader. So I've always shared a lot with the company. Never, whether it's how we're doing financially or how I'm thinking or how I'm feeling or that I don't know the answer, and just kind of like try to create an environment that's pretty honest and open and caring, and then celebrate other folks. I'm certainly the leader of Sabah and probably the main energizer and heartbeat of it in a lot of senses, but I don't take credit for most. At this point, it's a collection of us that are making it happen. So making sure everybody gets credit and feels celebrated is a big deal for us.
Did you have any mentors? You built this company starting pretty early. Um, so I'm just curious, like if you have people you go to help you navigate certain things.
Probably my biggest mentor with my business. I mean, my dad has been a huge mentor to me along the way, both directly and indirectly. He had his own company as he was an entrepreneur and built a company, and it was in real estate. It was very separate, different than what I do in a sense of product. They're a service business and product, but I think his approach to culture and the way he ran his office and the way he treated people, I watched that. The way he inspired and sold and everything. So I think, he mentored me indirectly as a kid. And then as I've run my business over the last 11 years, I've probably call him every couple of days and, ask him for his advice. Then on a more direct sense, there's a company called I'm Eugene and Willie out of Nashville. The CEO, KP McNeil, I call him my best business friend. But he's also my mentor for sure. And, I think he identified early on that Sabah was interesting, and we got connected just through kind of a mutual appreciation for what we do. And we've had a lot of tie-ups together with business. We've collaborated. We've done pop-ups. We have a store together in Austin. But he's also taken a keen interest in my business, and we talk every week. And he's served as like an amazing mentor to me. I think I think when you think about mentors, he's been really successful, but it's like who's operating their business in the way you want to operate your business. I really look up to the way that they run it, their scale, their approach, what they care about. So he's been a great mentor to me. And I could name others, but I'll leave it at that.
How have you changed personally over the last 11 years building this thing?
And I started my business, I was 25 and now I'm 37. So a lot, my chest is a lot hairier. And um, I think I've probably the biggest change has been my understanding of what matters. And I think if you were to put it in and again, it depends on your goals. But my goal, I never raised any money to build Sabah. I never had a stated goal of selling it, and my goal was to build something that would last. And I think probably in my first 8 years, I kind of underappreciated the importance of stability, profitability, cash flow management, sort of some of the things that are a little less sexy, but kind of keep something healthy. And in the last few years, I've emphasized that, and that's very hard, but I've emphasized that a lot more. To me, I'm less worried about growth and top line and size, and much more concerned about quality, profitability, and stability. Stability can be kind of boring, but like quality of creative, quality of and we've always done things in a quality sense, but like that matters more to me, and focusing less on like the momentary growth and like, hey, how do we look, how do we set this up to be here for the next decade and preserve what we've had. And I think I've also understood a lot more of what I think I have a much better holistic view of what success is. I think success when I was younger, I don't think I even knew what success was, but it was probably more about attention and probably money and scale. Again, I didn't run, if you look at how I ran my business, I don't think you would have thought I cared a lot about scale because it never was a very big company. I didn't push it very hard, but I think now I understand that success is, a big piece of it's, four things: independence, having independence. And that a big part of that is financial, especially in this world. And, living in a city like New York, it's not an inexpensive place to live. And then another big piece of it is around having time and owning your time and independence, and then energy and health, and then relationships. And like, how do you create something that gives you all those? It allows you to be independent, own your time. I work a ton of hours, but I work on my own time, and I feel like I have time and presence of mind when I need to have that. My business gives me energy, doesn't drain me of energy, and then I have great relationships through it. And I'm also, I've met my girlfriend through my business. I've made a lot of my best friends through it. I have great relationships in the community that really feed me. Like, there's that idea of ikigai, a Japanese concept of people relying on you. So I think, like, it's really easy to have like lots of financial wealth but no time, or lots of time but no energy, or no time and lots of, it's like, how do you kind of circle on all those things in a way that brings happiness? And I think if you over index for one of them, at times your life kind of shifts, of course, but trying to find that balance, I think, I'm much more interested in that as a person now. Maybe it's a product of age. Um, uh, but I don't think I haven't become any happier as, let's say, Sabah's become financially more successful. I've made more money as a person necessarily. That probably hasn't been the main driving factor for me.
Yeah, you seem to have a real commitment to the process and less of a commitment to the outcomes, which is very countercultural. I think you see in like the businesses probably that you're even competing against. If there's such a thing, when you
Yeah,
you,
I
you
think.
said it, like community and culture is a byproduct of doing the work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's more. Yeah, exactly. I think that's true. And I would like to. I think the more that you have a business that's profitable and stable, and and focus on, as opposed to, the more you get to focus on process, and the more you get to do interesting work when you're not chasing some metrics, or hoping you don't run out of money, or needing to raise money for the next round, or chasing growing really fast is really hard, and it requires you to like, so it's like, hey, well, how do we have something that allows us to, yeah, focus on that process, be present, go deep. Those are, I think, things that make someone happier. And I don't get me wrong, I haven't cracked the code on all this at all. I'm stressed out all the time, and but I think I'm understanding what matters. I think it would be the more important thing, and trying to figure out how to get there. Um, and the last thing I'll say is, I think I've also understood I'm most proud in my business for the things that haven't changed more than the things that have changed. And that's sort of a different mindset. It's like, I think people tell me all the time, Sabah still feels like it felt 11 years ago, or 10 years ago. Like, there's still the same feeling when I come in the store. The shoes still feel great. They're still made by the same family. We've just grown a lot. And we have a lot of the same team for years on end. We have a lot of the same customers year after year. And like, that to me is meaningful. Um,
Yeah. If you had a paintbrush and a canvas, what do you want Saba to look like at year 20?
huh. It's a good question. I think, um, I think in year 20 we've kind of continued to grow steadily, and organically. We probably have a few more stores that we're really proud of, that are really well run, that when folks walk in, they're like really uplifted by it. We've certainly expanded our category, our catalog some more. I hope it's still 100% privately owned, meaning owned by me and a collection of employees that have been there for a while. And we're feeling really positive about the state of the business, and whether it's big or small, we're feeling really fulfilled from our work. We're feeling rewarded in all those ways I talked about from our work, and we're really in sync and proud of what we've done because, yeah, 10 years from now, 20 years in, I mean, I think I think it would, if we're able to do all that, it's going to feel really awesome. I think the first 10 years has been kind of a roller coaster, and I think the next 10 years will sort of be where we're like, it's a well-oiled machine that's now able to grow in a really beautiful way because we figure, like when you go from your 20s to your 30s and you sort of understand yourself more and you start cutting out crap that you don't like and you sort of hone in on your best friends, and you learn what hobbies make you happy, and you maybe don't drink as much anymore and have as many hangovers because you like understand that that's not, so it's kind of where our business is now. And I think,
I have a buddy who said he's contrarian opinion is that the 20s are your worst part of your life. So much uncertainty, so much limbo. There's so much you don't know about yourself.
yeah, absolutely. And you're just kind of clawing for things. And I think that's not dissimilar from a business, like we've been in our 20s and now we're getting into our early 30s, and that, in 10 years we'll be in our 40s, and hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully
like
it's a
dog
different
years,
deal.
except 2 instead of 7. Well,
Yeah,
you've been really
exactly.
gracious with your time. And what's the best way for people to keep up with you and what you guys are doing in Sabah?
Two places. We have a newsletter that I referenced earlier. We write, we send a handful of them, a couple of them every week. So it's a lot of volume, but it's really high quality content. So that's one, and then two, Instagram. So at the Sabah dealers, our Instagram, and then our newsletter. If you go to our website, which is www.sabah.am, because AM means the morning, Sabah means the morning. That's the play there. You can subscribe for the newsletter at the bottom, and I hope people would enjoy it and the content that comes through.
Yeah, we'll have links to the website and the Instagram in the show notes, but appreciate you coming on the show, Mickey.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you for listening to Tuesdays More. See, that conversation was with Mickey Ashmore. Mickey is the founder of Sabah Shoes, now in its 11th year with stores in New York, Austin, London, and more. What I enjoyed about the episode was hearing Mickey's emphasis on community, craftsmanship, and culture, as well as hearing stories of how they've been able to build a sustainable business while staying true to their values. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, and we'll see you here soon. Thanks.